Hello, everyone, and welcome into the fantasy football universe. I am Aaron St. Denis. Find me everywhere at FF Mad Scientist. He is Jesse Moeller. I think you can find him everywhere. Did you get J Moeller 05 everywhere?
Except Instagram, someone had that, so I had to do the one and only J-Bo. I was like, son of a, this is the only one.
I thought I remember having this conversation with you before where you got J Moeller 05 everywhere except for one spot. So
stupid
I didn't want to say
Instagram.
find him everywhere because I know, yeah, that's right. It's Instagram where I was going to type in J Moeller and I'm like, why can I never fucking find this guy? Okay, it's the one and only J Mo. So, all right, we are back, and I am going to do my best to fight through it here. I've got my Jordan flu game going on. And it's NFC West, so this will be fun. I've got a T. That's how bad things are right now. That's how bad I feel that I've resorted to tea in the middle of a show. So we will get on with it. This one is the NFC West Divisional Superlatives. It was good timing that you jumped on for this one. I know this is your division here. You are a Seahawks fan. All right, I guess we will begin with the QBs. I did lay down a few ground rules last time. This one's easy. This one's got 4 starting quarterbacks here. If there is another option at any position, which these 4 there aren't, I use the Steelers example. If I listed Russell Wilson as the quarterback and you prefer Justin Fields, feel free to sub him in. If I listed AJ Brown and you want Devonta Smith, feel free to sub him in. They're obviously not going to be relevant to this division, but at some point, if you want, feel free to sub another player in. I just put who I have as the one. The lone exception, teams that have, and I'm sure there will be at one point, probably the Cardinals. The Cardinals at receiver are likely to have Marvin Harrison Jr. on their graphic. In the case where there was a glaring need and it's obvious they're going to draft someone, I went to Mock Draft Database and I put who the most mock player was. I don't want to play, revolving door of rookies here, so let's just stick with the rookie on the graphic. That's the most logical, but feel free to sub in. We'll start at quarterbacks here. This is a tough one, actually, I think, out of the 4 to even rank these. We've got 49ers have Brock Purdy. The Cardinals have Kyler Murray. The Seahawks have Geno Smith. And the Rams have Matthew Stafford. I think I have the same answer at number 1 in Dynasty and in Redraft. But I think if this is in Dynasty, I think it's even more Kyler Murray as my 1. And then even more Brock Purdy as my 2. A Redraft is where it gets interesting. I still want Kyler Murray, but the next 3 are much closer. I just think in Dynasty, Geno and Stafford take too much of a hit based on Geno being in his 12th year breakout and Stafford being really one injury away from retirement. I know he could play another 5 years, but you never know. So I guess we'll start with you. What do you want? You want to go who? Just your 1? You want to break down all 4? Redraft, Dynasty, dealer's choice. Have at it.
Yeah, I mean, I've very much been a Kyler stan, you could say. So I will always defer to Kyler Murray, who's even last year in that awful situation where they had basically no skill position talent. I mean, they had Hollywood Brown, who was basically there parts of the time, and Trey McBride. Trey McBride was the entire offense. And still Kyler basically matched Brock Purdy on a points per game basis. I think he was 18.9 points per game, and Brock Purdy was 19.2. So even in that awful situation that he was in with Arizona last year, he basically matched Brock Purdy, who's in the premium situation of all quarterbacks. So we get that. They're getting a ton of people coming in this year with the rookie draft. Like, they're going to improve the line, both sides. They're going to improve the skill position players. We hope we get Marvin Harrison Jr., but if they don't, if they trade down, they get whatever, right? So it's Kyler Murray. Basically, I'm always going to default to him because the rushing upside and just what we've seen from him. And then it's really Brock Purdy because he's in the ideal situation for any quarterback to be in because of how good that situation is. And then I say you can kind of pick and choose between Stafford and Geno, whoever you want to go with. If you prefer Stafford because he had the higher highs, or Geno 2 years ago. Like, I'm a little partial to Geno, but just because of the age thing for Dynasty. But in Redraft, I'll probably take Stafford just because we know the situation. They don't have a new quarterback or a new coach coming in, new head coach, like all these things changing for Geno. So I would just take this security with Stafford between the 2 of them.
In Dynasty, for me, it's easily Kyler at 1, easily Purdy at 2, and then it's kind of a flip-flop here. I think Stafford has more upside, and I think I prefer Stafford's weapons, but I think it's dealer's choice for Dynasty at 3 or 4. Redraft, I think, is where it's interesting, because it's Kyler for me at 1 for sure. It's not so easy at 2, 3, 4. In Redraft, I think these 3 are much closer, and I'm just a sec. I'm going to bring up the rankings here of last year, of where they all finished. Just in last year. Obviously, Kyler will be way out of it because injury and whatnot. Purdy was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. QB6, is that QB6? Oh, so Purdy finished higher than I would have thought. He was QB6. Gino is a sec, we're scrolling down. Stafford's next at 15. He missed a game in the middle there, 2 games actually, one in the middle, one at the end. And Gino was QB 19. He did not miss one game. He was just disappointing. So
Yeah.
based off of last year's numbers alone, if you're going off that, it's probably still Purdy at number 2, but I think it's much closer for these 3. I don't know. What do you think here, redraft wise?
Redraft. I'm gonna have those first 2 closer together. Like we saw Purdy, he was really good. He was really good the year before. It's just why I have them like kind of grouped together and then the other 2 grouped together is Stafford needs a monumental passing season. He's had it before. He's had those 40 passing touchdown seasons. Like when he took the Rams to the Super Bowl that year, he was phenomenal. It's just without that passing touchdown, the high end passing touchdown, it's really hard for him to compete with Kyler Murray and Brock Purdy, who's just offense is just a juggernaut and it kind of sustains itself. So he's just more of the gatekeeper of that offense where Stafford, you're 100% relying on him. And Gino to a point too, even though the skill position guys, I would argue, are similar between the Rams and the Seahawks. Like there's a lot of good players on both sides of the ball there. But like Purdy, I mean, the skill position talent is the best in the league. Like you can't match it. So that's why he's closer to Kyler for me. But I'll just take the rushing upside with Kyler. He's finally a year removed from the ACL. Like he got that out of the way. So he should be back to who he was. So yeah, it's like those 2 and then those 2 kind of separate.
I never thought I'd find myself as the high guy on Kyler, but it just seems like he just seems to have the most upside. I mean, maybe it's the most dual threat upside. You know, Stafford, I think we've seen some 5,000 yard seasons there on him. Let me look.
Yeah.
Look back. What do we got?
His 2021 season, he had 20.4 points per game. In 2019, he had 21 points per game.
So he hasn't cracked. Oh, he cracked 5,000 back in 2011, but like we've got a lot of seasons here of 4,900, 4,600, 4,500, 4,800. So he's consistently throwing for the high 4,000s. The touchdown numbers are in the 20s with the odd season in the 30s, 2 in the 40s. But so I think he has the upside. I don't think it's as high of upside. Like Kyler doesn't have to throw as much with his rushing upside, even though, he's tiny and been injured lately. But I don't know, the last group we did was the NFC East. And I think this is a much more balanced group of quarterbacks as opposed to the NFC East where it was 2 high-end quarterbacks. And we had two rookies in there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, we did. Well, Daniel Jones, some would say.
Yeah. I mean, it's whatever you want to call him, right?
Okay. All right, let's go on next. Got a position you want to do next?
Whichever one comes up on the graphic, I will do. So we pull the running backs, we can do those. You want to do wide receivers? Let's do those.
Okay, running back it is. We have just a second, another division where it's actually 4 incumbent starters. San Fran has CMC. The Cardinals have James Conner, assuming they again do not draft a rookie to bypass him. Ken Walker on the Seahawks and Kyron Williams on the Rams. I think the obvious answer here is 1 for Christian McCaffrey in redraft and dynasty. I get it. He's old. So how can he be the 1 in dynasty? But he was kind of like the old Travis Kelce, for me. I don't care. He's my number 1 until he retires. He will die on my roster. Some players are just too valuable. I don't care if I draft him and get 1 year out of him. It will be 1 elite year if he's healthy. I will just take CMC. So I guess the debate here is what do we do 2, 3, 4 for the rest? I think redraft's the most interesting because I'm pretty sure we're both taking Connor last in Dynasty. Yeah. Okay, so we'll go Dynasty first because there's only 2 players to really debate. We have the 1 and the 4. Who's 2 and 3 for you out of Kyron and Ken Walker?
Kyron. I think Ken Walker's good back, but he's got far more competition. And his usage is nowhere near what Kyron was getting last year. Kyron was getting the CMC role pretty much. In the Rams offense, he's just not the pass catcher that CMC is, right? So he was getting that 80% work share, like everything you would want. So if I'm choosing between the 2 of these guys, I get it. Kyron doesn't have the draft capital. I don't care. I want guys that are going to score more fantasy points. And if I'm betting on between Ken Walker and Kyron Williams, I'd actually probably in redraft, I'd probably take James Conner over Ken Walker just because I don't know what's going, how that Seahawks offense is going to go. I'm excited for it. It could be really well, but we've seen James Conner when he's on the field. He's been a better back for fantasy throughout his entire career. So if I'm going redraft, yeah, I'm going to have Walker 4th. I'm going to take Kyrie 2nd just because he's that upside that you're hoping James Conner gives you. He put up 21 points per game last year. He was awesome when he came on the field. It's just the difference between him and CMC is CMC still 4 points above him. So I don't care about the age difference in Dynasty. I want at running back position, it's such a short window. I want guys who produce when then and now. So I was actually having a dynasty discussion with somebody who was trying to offer me Ken Walker and James Conner, and I was valuing Ken Walker like early second and James Conner at a late second. Like I don't see much of a difference between them because I don't care about the age difference. Like it's more points per game basis. So that's kind of how I have those guys. I want Kyron on my team. Like I think he's very good. I think he's still discounted to the point where he's still a value in dynasty.
I don't know. This one scares the shit out of me. I think my answer is Kyron at 2, Ken Walker at 3 in Dynasty. But the problem is, I think Kyron Williams is much riskier. This has the potential where you could draft him and he could be a top 6 running back. This also has the potential, as unlikely as it is, to be the next Dameon Pierce, where we said this going into last season. Everyone laughed at me. I put up a rookie rankings or whatever, and Dameon Pierce was like 10th or 12th overall in my overall rookie rankings, Superflex rookie rankings. And everyone said, oh, you're an idiot. Dameon Pierce too low, blah, blah, blah. And I said, he has no draft capital. He benefited from a massive workload. If anything changes in his situation, he's going to be dead. And a year later, he's dead. I don't think that'll happen. Like Kyron Williams was awesome, but he has no draft capital. And the majority of his value was the fact that he literally was like 90% of the running back volume in the offense. If they draft even, excuse me, sorry, I'm struggling here. Mm-hmm. If they draft a day 3 running back who comes in and even cuts him down to a 70% workload, get a little bit of, cut down on some of the pass volume, suddenly, for me, it's a cost issue with him. RB6 right now. I just don't know. I think he's being drafted at a ceiling. Having said that, I think I'd still take him over Ken Walker. I just don't think they're anywhere near the same cost, which is why I'm going to have more Walker. I think, like you said, I can get Walker in the second. Kyron, you're going to need to draft in the middle of the first round. So
yeah, I mean, they did this last year with Zach Evans, right? Where everyone's like, oh yeah, Zach Evans is going to be a thing. And it's like, I don't know, man. He's really good. But yeah, I get it. I'm 100% with you. He's in that ETN James Cook tier where like there is risk. I think with him and ETN, there's a lot of risk with both those guys because it's a volume case. And if you take away the volume from those guys, then it's efficiency and it's just really hard. So I'm kind of with you on that.
I hate the volume monsters. They scare me, especially like I prefer. Okay, I don't want to say prefer straight up based on last year. I don't prefer ETN, but ETN I feel like has a safer floor. Maybe not as high a ceiling, but safer floor because ETN was a late first round pick, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's draft capital. They invested a shit ton in him. He has a connection to the quarterback too. They both
went to Clemson.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But I don't know. I know it's a draft capital. Oh, you're buying into draft capital. What does draft capital matter after he produces, as a rookie? Well, ask Tyler Algier and ask Dameon Pierce. Obviously, Bijan Robinson didn't come in, but in the Pierce situation, they brought in what? Devin Singletary? Yeah, that's how valuable his draft capital was. Devin Singletary took his job from him. I think Kyron Williams is better, but if we went into last year, who had the better profile? It was Dameon Pierce. Dameon Pierce had the better measurables. He was faster. He was bigger. He had better college production. Everyone gave up on Kyron Williams after the combine because he tanked in the combine. He was slow as shit. He's too small. Everyone said too small, too fat, or too small, too slow. All of a sudden, he got monster workload, and he looked great. He looked great last year. I think he's very risky, and that's why putting him at second, despite the fact that I'm going to do that, it scares the shit out of me.
Yeah, no, it's like that's the thing you're betting on him with just the talent in the situation. Well, I'll push back on Pierce a little bit is because they brought in a whole new coaching staff and they changed the scheme, and that's the whole issue with Pierce. Like the scheme did not fit Pierce's talent. Where Kyron Williams, he fits what they want to do, and like that's Sean McVay. It's the same coach. Like it's not as risky as Pierce was, and he's at a higher upside. But yeah, like I get the point you're making makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Like Kyron was a better producer. It's just the lack of measurables, the lack of all that crap like worked against him. But we faded him to oblivion, which is probably our fault as like analysts, right? Because we didn't bet on the talent. It's like okay, like we get it. But yeah, like with Walker, like some of my issue with Walker is Charbonnet is there. We've seen it, and I think he's good back. I just don't know how it's going to play out. Like Pete Carroll's gone. It's a new head coach. So the connection between both of those guys, it's like the better guy is going to win. So, and if Walker's not getting the passing downs, like that's what I hate to see, which I don't know if he's going to get it. If he doesn't get it, man, he's a 2-down grinder, and that shit sucks. And that's why it's like I really don't like the cost of Walker or Williams in Dynasty. Like
that's the other reason I've been higher on Walker. I'm a Michigan fan. Excuse me, I got just all hiccupy today. I'm fading here. I'm a Michigan fan, and I'm not a fan of Zach Charbonnet at all. I did not like him. I don't think he's all that great. I never seen him as a threat to Ken Walker. I think he's a career backup. But okay, so I guess redraft is where it gets interesting. I'm still going CMC.
Yeah.
I think the three are closer here, but I think it's still the same order. I think it's still Kyron, Walker, James Conner. I think that obviously 2, 3, and 4 are a little closer to. Basically, all it does switching from dynasty to redraft is it keeps Connor a little closer to me into the pack. But having said that, you're right. In the end, running backs have a short window anyway. So if you get 2, 3 years out of a running back, at this point, you get 2, 3 years out of a receiver, you should be happy. So I think we're overvaluing redraft or dynasty, like youth and dynasty. Like, look at this. What was it? The first draft class I ever played dynasty was Michael Thomas, Juju Smith-Schuster with a consensus 1 and 2. 2 years later, they fall off the map. Even like you see, I get Jefferson is still a consensus top, but if you had gone last year and said, look at the difference in value between Jefferson last year and this year, with Kirk moving on, CeeDee Lamb having a career, his value wasn't as insulated as we thought. Like, he went from where he was the easy 101 at receiver to where he's like, what, the 3, 4 now? 2, 3, 4? So like, I think sometimes we value youth and situation. Like, things change real quick in the NFL. Injuries happen, coaching staff change, trades, all that shit. So I don't know. I think in the end, the order stays the same. 1, 2, 3, 4 for McCaffrey, Williams, Walker, Connor. I think they're just a little closer together. But either way, I'm taking CMC. I don't think anyone would argue that.
I think it's not even close between, like, I'll phrase it this way. Like, why would someone pay up for Walker in Dynasty when you could go get the Aaron Jones, the freaking James Conner, the Derrick Henry? Like, they're much cheaper. It's like the age insulation factor with running back, I really don't care about. Unless you're an elite producer. This is where we get in the issue with Kyron Williams because he doesn't have the draft capital. If he had the draft capital like Ken Walker, Kyron Williams would be like a top 5 back, like, no doubt about it. People would be like pushing him into tier 1. It's just the last of their draft capital. And like, so it's like, I would rather just buy old running backs are cheaper than pay for Ken Walker. Like, that's what I'll phrase it.
And that's the irony of dynasty season here. You have right now, all that people want are the rookies. That's great, but I can draft James Conner on a win now build. If I don't win halfway through the season, if it's not working out for me, if I'm injured, underperforming, you know what? Unless I get lucky and James Conner's the guy who fell off the cliff this year, I can still get a second-round pick for him to a contender at the trade deadline or halfway through the season. So it's why we're not buying veterans right now. But don't sell low on them either. Just draft your James Conner now. And if it's not working out, sell him later. You'll get something back and you can draft Zach Charbonnet next year in the second round or whoever's this year's second round pick running back. But
the opportunity cost on Kyron Williams, that's the whole issue. Like,
people, I think
we're paying a premium for him right now.
I think people need to start adjusting their views on dynasty a bit. I get age is important, but we're taking too much of a long view and too much of an ageist view on dynasty sometimes. And it's like I've had rosters where they were loaded with first round picks. They were all great young first round picks. Well, you know what? At some point, I need a veteran who's going to fucking consistently produce and is going to show up every week. I can't all have rookies who are all finding their way inconsistently through my roster. You're just not going to win that way. So
right, it's like, and dynasty is like redraft plus. I heard someone say that. Like, that's what it is nowadays. It's like,
pretty much.
You could just play in Windows. 100%.
All right, next we have the wide receivers, and we have our first rookie on the board. This is a pretty stacked group, though. I put Ayuk for San Fran. You could also sub in Debo. We'll factor him in. This is actually going to have a lot of backups here we're going to be talking about. The Cardinals, it's pretty much Marvin Harrison Jr. Seattle, we have DK on the board, but you could also factor in Lockett. Maybe you think JSN takes a step. And the Rams, we have Puka, but obviously Cooper Kupp is still there. So I guess off these 4, let's start with this. Of these 4, is there anyone you'd like to sub out for a teammate on your top 4 of the board here?
You could pick your favorite San Francisco 49er, but him and Debo, it's like a coin flip. I don't really care. So whichever one you want to go with, cool. I'm fine with these guys. Like, these are the guys I would pick.
Okay. I don't even know where to start here. This is a scary one because I don't know if there's necessarily. They're all pretty close. I think they're all valued somewhere, even redraft dynasty. I think they're all going to be somewhere between wide receiver 7 or 8 at the highest for probably Puka or Marvin Harrison, and as low at, you think it's higher, 6?
Yeah, I have Puka at 4 or 5, and I have Harrison at 6, and then DK and Ayuk are closer for me, but yeah, we can get into that.
Well, so let's assume they're all valued somewhere between wide receiver 5 and 15-ish. I think maybe DK or Ayuk slips to the lower teens, but I think they're all pretty similarly valued here. Okay, so let's do this. We'll go, I guess we're going to go 7 here, and we'll just rank our top 7, including the 3 other teammates, excluding the Cardinals. I don't really care there.
Wow.
Where do you want to start? Redraft, Dynasty? What do you think?
I think it's interesting to talk about these guys from redraft because it also shapes how we view these guys in Dynasty. Like, because Ayuk and Metcalf are significantly lower than these two in Dynasty. And redraft, I think we need to talk about Harrison, what the expectations are for him and how we're going to view him in Dynasty. Because if he doesn't put up a monster season, then, like, I know people talk about a wide receiver 3. Like, is he worth it at that cost? So I say we can just go from redraft and talk about who our top guy is from redraft. Because for me, it's going to be Puka. Like, it's hands down Puka. He had a monster season last year. But
back to Harrison now. I think from a redraft standpoint, he's like Bijan last year. He's destined to be a bust. Don't get me wrong. Bijan was great last year, but unless he comes out and has the Puka Nacua season, I think his draft cost is he's going to be drafted so high. Like I don't think he's a bust. I think he's going to be a redraft bust, and that he may still produce. I just think we're going to be drafting him too high to the point where he would have to have the best rookie season we've ever seen, like Puka did, to bring back his cost. So, what did Puka finish as last year?
The wide receiver?
Yeah, I'm looking right now. He was wide receiver 4. Okay, so wide receiver 4 in the best wide receiver rookie season we've ever seen. Mm-hmm. If you draft Marvin Harrison at wide receiver 4 or 5, he basically has to do what Puka did last year and break every rookie record. That's a lot to ask for any rookie, even if it is a generational rookie. Like, I get Bijan, the coach, was pretty stupid and he didn't give him the whole role, but I think we're setting very lofty expectations. I am firmly on board that he is a wide receiver 1, even as a rookie, but I don't really want to have him on my redraft squad as wide receiver 4 off the board. That's asking a ton.
Are you taking him top 12 in redraft? That's like steep on wide receiver. I'm not doing that. Like, that's,
I don't know.
That's
no. I mean, I could see him finishing top 12, but like,
okay. Yeah,
I don't know. He's gonna go top 12 off the board. I don't know.
Well, best ball, he's like the teens wide receiver right now. Is
like he? Okay, yeah, I don't have the ADP up right now, but
yeah. So like he's kind of discounted a little bit because I think people are smarter with how they do it. It just really gets into your dynasty rankings, and like if you're comfortable him finishes a wide receiver 19 on the year, like which is like a points per game basis 15, right? Like say he hits that. Is that justifying, like you're talking about the wide receiver 4 ranking in dynasty when we have guys like Garrett Wilson and all these guys that are going to produce monster seasons? So I think this is the whole context of because he has the name installation and his value and like why he's going to be the wide receiver 1 coming out. But yeah, like I'm not going to draft him alongside Puka. Like I think that's just asinine for anybody to do that in redraft. If you want to do the dynasty take, I get it. You just have to be, and like we have to be careful how we play dynasty because if you're playing it in a 1-year window, like we've seen this with CeeDee Lamb, it took him 3 years to pay off that cost, and people were like, "Oh, he's super overvalued." Like I think we can get in that conversation with Harrison. That will probably happen at some point where he has 9 points in a week, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's overrated," or people are like, "No, he's fine." It's just like I think this is where the two kind of like the inflection point on the two kind of come together and they fight each other.
In Fantasy Pros single QB ECR right now, he's wide receiver 11, going off the board 19th overall. So I get, obviously, Superflex is going to push him back, but in a regular 1 QB league, you have to take him in the second round. And I just, like, don't get me wrong, this isn't an anti-Marvin Harrison. It's an anti-cost. I just think he would have to have it was like back to Kyle Pitts a few years ago. He'd have to have the greatest tight end rookie season ever. And even then he would underperform his draft costs. I just think at his current cost, you can only take a loss in redraft. Your best case scenario is for him to break Puka Nacua's season last year and still be basically even. Because like wide receiver 4, okay, so he's wide receiver 11. So you would make a profit on that, but I don't know. I think we're setting ourselves up to have him as a failure in redraft just based on the draft cost alone.
Yeah, I think the draft cost in redraft's a little steep because like he's going alongside Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, Brandon Ayuk, Nico Collins. You have to kind of make a choice where you're comfortable like with that cost. Like my thought process is, why are we paying the premium for him and Neighbors? Just go get Odunze, who's like rounds cheaper. Just get Odunze, who's going to find a similar situation. Who like, and I've been on Odunze forever, so whatever you can say, I'm biased, but like I don't want to pay the premium cost for those guys where I can get the cheaper rookie of the 3 like rounds later. So I would just do that. But yeah, if we're talking about redraft, like where are you taking Marvin Harrison among these 4 wide receivers?
Okay, I'm going to try and do my best to do all 7 here in redraft. I think Puka's the easy one. Yep. Next up, I have probably Ayuk, followed by Debo, which is funny because we got the backup there. So followed by Debo. 4, I think I can flip-flop. This is an argument here between 4 and 5. I prefer probably the ceiling of Marvin Harrison, but you could convince me it could also be DK Metcalf. Decaf. I got a new nickname for him, Decaf. Yeah. Then you could also convince me. I think he's a bit behind this group, but I don't mind Cup next. Mm-hmm. Who am I leaving out? Is that just JSN and JSN? I think. Okay, that's an interesting one for me. So I got everyone except for the 2 Seahawks. Who do you think is the last out of the 2 Seahawks? If you had to pick, would you go JSN next or Tyler Lockett next? I think JSN feels like the right play for me.
Yeah, like if you want to chase the upside of JSN, he's going above Lockett. We did this last year. He's going above Lockett, didn't outperform him. He's once again going above Lockett.
So yeah, he is again. He's going 3 spots above. They're wide receiver 44 and it's 47. So.
I don't mind it with a new team and a new offense, like betting on JSN because Lockett's going to be approaching 32 years old. I think at this point, like at some point, and similar to Cup, I think Cup's 31. So like we can talk about Cup in that facet too. Like I think it's a clear Puka. Then you get in the discussion of who you prefer of the San Francisco wide receivers, if it's Ayuk or Debo, they back to back. And then Metcalf comes in, so like Metcalf's the third of that group. I'm throwing Harrison into that group with those guys because he's the wide receiver 1 on his own team. He does not, like I know we have Trey McBride. He does not have the same level of competition. He's not going to. And his quarterback is Kyler Murray. So like if we want to bet on Marvin Harrison around the cost of wide receiver 15, 16, I'm fine with that as a rookie perspective. Like I'm okay with that. But like just know that like the guys you're betting on him compared to, like they could smack. Like it. You're talking about Devontae Adams. The dude had 170 plus targets last year. He's going to see that again. I know his situation's not as good, but like it's tough. Like Marvin Harrison needs serious, like he needs to dominate from the jump to pay off his guys. So
in the end, how do you rank the 7?
So I would go Puka, the Puka 1. I'm going to go Ayuk 2. Then it gets really hard because I love Debo, but man, I'm probably going to put Harrison 3 with Debo 4, Metcalf 5, and then Coop 6, and then JSN 7. That's right how I do it. And then maybe I guess Lockett. Like I don't.
So yours is pretty much the same as me, but I think you flip-flopped Harrison for Debo, which is completely reasonable. Yeah. Dynasty, I think it's a different argument here. I think the only legitimate argument in Dynasty here is do you want Puka or Marvin Harrison Jr.?
Puka. Like the whole thing with Puka is the lack of draft capital. And this is interesting how the Rams have 2.
I don't care about it at wide receiver. It's not running back. I don't care about your draft capital at wide receiver.
Yeah,
like it doesn't matter for some reason.
Yeah, like we're hoping Marvin Harrison does what Puka did, and I'm like, just take the sure thing with Puka. You know what you have, the bird in the hand. Like he was incredible. It's the best rookie season we've ever seen. And like I get it, people are like,
listen to me too much. Like, you just said a bird in the hand.
I know we talked about this the other day.
I say it every show.
We saw like what he did last year. Like you're just taking on the risk with Harrison is the way I'll phrase it. And I get it. People love Harrison. Like he has a name. Dude, just give me Puka every time. Like he is back to back with ASRB, and I'm debating flipping him over Amon-Ra St. Brown because his rookie season was far better. So like, I'll go Puka, Marvin Harrison Jr. Then I'll go Ayuk and Debo are really similar tier. I just think Ayuk's a better player at this point. So like, I'll just bet on Ayuk in that situation. But you could talk to me in Metcalf in that range, and then it's Debo, and then it's probably JSN, and then like Lockett Cup. Like I'll go Cup Lockett. Is how I'd go.
I go Puka, Harrison, Ayuk, Debo, DK, JSN, Cup, Lockett. I like JSN. I think I'm almost done with Cup here. I think I'm running out of energy to do this again with Cup. I don't hate him. I think I'm going to give JSN a little props and think that he takes a step forward here.
I mean, you're shaving off like 8 years of age or something like with JSN. Like it totally makes sense. Like that age gap is substantial. And if we're not getting a massive points per game difference, like it just makes sense.
It's funny because Cup doesn't even seem that old because I'm going to have to look exactly, but because he didn't break out right away.
Yeah, he was an old declare. Like he spent a long time in college and stuff, so that's why. Like he had a short window.
Well, but I mean, like he was already into his third season before he broke out and finished fourth. And then we got a wasted season. Then he finished first. And then we've got basically 2 injury-plagued wasted seasons. So really, as great as he's been, he had 2 elite top 5 seasons. That's it. He has 2 elite top 5 seasons. His next best finish in 7 seasons is 24th overall. Largely 2020 and 2022 are injuries, obviously. But for a guy who seems like he's just been this, number 1 wide receiver for the past 10 years, we really got 2 good seasons out of him. And then late breakout, late declare, and a couple of injuries really probably took away from 10 years. Took 10 years of Cooper Cup elite production and turned it into 2. So
this is the thing with Christian McCaffrey, like the high end, like superstar seasons, they shift our views on players. So like McCaffrey's had serious injuries, and like you look at his career, but like production, you're like, what the hell? Same thing with like Cooper Cup, because he had that 2021 season. We kind of forget like, oh, he's been injured a lot. He hasn't had these other monster seasons. It's kind of like that's why the guys that do it, like Jefferson, are so impressive. And even last year, like he dealt with injuries, whatever. But like you see it like consistently doing it over and over again. Like it's so impressive for guys.
Well, it happens. It's why we can, players, when their value gets boosted off of one season, it takes a while to come back down, even if it was just one good season. Like we see DK, his second year, he was wide receiver 6. After that, he's been 12, 18, and 16, but yet he's still consensusly being valued typically right as though he's still a high-end receiver in everyone's estimation, even though he's typically just a mid-range wide receiver too. But that one top 6 finish, all of a sudden it's everyone just sees ceiling, the ceiling's there. So
yeah,
that's what I said. Like Puka could have 4 bad years in a row here, and we're still going to be drafting him as a wide receiver 2 in 2029 going, well, he could turn it around. He did it one year. So
yeah, I think like once you get that glut of like the Debo, Ayuk, Metcalf, like that tier of wide receivers, like it's so clustered together with guys. I'm really trying to get out of that group of wide receivers and either tier up
take the last person, the cheapest person in the tier.
I'm trying to get out of that group because man, it's just a glut of dudes, and it's just so many guys in that area that concentrated.
Exactly. All right, let's move on. We did running back, right? Yeah, we did. Let's find my tight end graphic. This should be fun.
Let's go, McBride.
It should be fun.
Yes, sir, baby.
We have
the Seahawks tight end. Wait, why is Jatavius Sanders on the Seahawks?
Because I said they had a glaring need, and I put in Jatavius Sanders. Who do you want? Who do they have? Noah Fant?
Tough break for Noah Fant.
That tells you my level of confidence in Noah Fant. So we have the San Francisco 49ers, George Kittle, Arizona Cardinals, Trey McBride. The Seattle Seahawks got Jatavius Sanders because I have no interest in Noah Fant, and the Rams have Tyler Higbee. For me, in a dynasty outlook, this one is easy for me. Dynasty, I go McBride, Kittle, Sanders, Higbee. In redraft, I think it's probably still McBride, Kittle, Sanders, Higbee. I guess you can somehow factor Noah Fant into this conversation if you want, but have at her.
Yeah, I'll take Trey McBride landslide above everyone. Like it's not even close. Kittle's old. I think he's hitting age 30 season right now, or he's right in that.
But he blocks so much, he gets hurt all the time.
Dude, it's the most okay. This is my issue with George Kittle. He's been the best high end in the NFL for the longest time, and he's dealt with injuries and he's blocked so goddamn much. He doesn't get to run routes, and he has the talented players around him. If you put George Kittle in another situation where he's like he doesn't have much competition, similar to Trey McBride, he would have been a monster. Like I think George Kittle's been a fantastic player. He's just but this is the whole issue with Kittle. Like he's been capped ever since because they have such good skill position players. They brought in McCaffrey, all this stuff. So, yeah, it's McBride. It's Kittle. I'll take the sure thing that is Kittle because he's going to have boom weeks to deal with it.
If you put Kittle in the role Kelsey's had for his career, you got a phone call?
No, that's my daughter. She's just
if you put Kittle in the role Kelsey had where he's mostly just a pass catcher and he's the number 1 target, I think he puts up comparable production.
Monster.
I think this guy's the limit there.
He's also such a good blocker. Like they're like, let's lean into it. And I'm like, this sucks for fantasy.
You get a lot of points in the fantasy league for blocks?
Not so much. So I really just don't care about Tyler Higbee. Like I don't even want to discuss this guy because he's just so frustrated. And it's just like, what do we do? It's actually similar to the Seahawks with Noah Fant. Like Noah Fant, like people love the upside, all this fun stuff. Like he's not getting snaps over the 3 wide receivers.
So
I don't care about the other 2 in the back.
So you have Sanders Higbee as your 3-4?
I mean, well, like I'm not sure the Seahawks draft a high end tight end. Like
that was my next question. If it goes if it's Fant on the Seahawks and Higbee goes to the Rams, or Sanders goes to the Rams instead, is it still Fant? Like Fant,
Yeah.
Sanders, Higbee. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I guess I'll take the Rams side edge just because they're supposedly third on that depth chart. Like, I'm looking at the Seahawks roster, and I'm like, good luck, man. Because, like, we have Fant there, and I don't know, good luck. Like, they have 4 tight ends on their roster right now. Most of them don't matter. But, yeah, like, between these guys, I'll take Higbee. He's been better in the points per game basis. He's done things. So I'll do that. In Dynasty, sure, you take the younger version of that in Noah Fant and a guy that's actually a better athlete and stuff like that. I guess I'll take the Seahawks guy just because he's younger in Dynasty. But in redraft, I'll just take the Rams guy because you can plug him in on a bad week and maybe play him and maybe he gets some touchdowns. It's just, yeah, it's not great.
The tight ends in this division get ugly real quick, man.
It's 2 really good ones and 2. This sucks. Yeah.
I thought Sanders could be good, but he's still the 3 for me in this one. And I'm not a fan of either of these landing spots if he went Seahawks or Rams. So, all right. From one mess to another, let's switch over to our final position. That would be kicker. Ooh, we got some fun ones here. We have a guy I had to look up on the one side, but we have the 49ers with Jake Moody, Matt Prater, the ageless one on the Cardinals, Jason Myers on the Seahawks, and Tanner Brown, now the Rams kicker. I think for me, the easy one here is probably Jake Moody. I shouldn't say easy. I think it's Moody, then closest Prater, then Myers. Basically, it's left to right for me. And I don't do dynasty versus redraft for kickers or DSTs. Whatever their value is this year is what their value is in dynasty. So I'll go Moody, Prater, Myers, Brown.
Yeah, that works for me. Like, yeah, I don't pay much attention to kickers. I'll take the guy on the better offense in San Francisco, Moody, who's younger, who's the guy that everybody was hyped out about last year. So yeah, take him. And then it's, what if you want to go the Seahawks kicker? Like, I get it. The offense should be comparable to I don't know. So, like, with Brown, interestingly enough, like, are you worried about him on there, or are you just riding with it because it's the Rams offense?
No. He was added because he was the only kicker on the roster at the time I did this.
Okay.
So that's why he was put there. And I didn't care enough to go in and find out which kicker they would be likely to draft. So he went in there. This could very well be a rookie, but he was the only listed kicker on the roster when I made up this graphic. So he is there, and he is easily the worst. I think the first 3, Moody, Prater, and Myers, are all rosterable if you draft kickers, but I think Moody's probably the only, every week starter for me. Prater,
yeah, because Myers significantly outscored him last year is why I was asking that. I think he had like 9.6 points per game, and Moody had like 7.7 among kickers. It's kickers, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just chase the better offense, and it seems like there's a lot of variance at the position. But yeah, like, I think I'll have Myers at second over Prater, and Prater be third. But yeah, I'm kind of with you on that.
Yeah, I think I'm just chasing the better offense. Having said that, the Cardinals could be better, and same with the Seahawks this year. But one sec, gonna sneeze.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like, and obviously I don't dive too deep into kickers, but I think there's a lot of variance year to year with how their production is. Unless you have the truly elite guys we talk about, like everyone always brings up Justin Tucker. I don't think he's ever been the kicker 1 a season. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but like he's always been the
Who's that?
Guy. Justin Tucker. Has he ever been the kicker 1 on a season? Like, I don't know if he has. I think he's been up there. I don't know if he has been or not, but like yeah, kickers are weird, man. You want like good offenses that don't score touchdowns. So I think this lines up for the Seahawks because this is last year. Like, their offense was good, but they just couldn't score touchdowns. So yeah, it makes sense. Like, it's just hard to put those guys.
Holy shit, Tucker's been in the league forever.
Yeah, he's actually kind of old, and he's just
he has been. He's 34. He's been 4, 3, 1, 5, 2, 3, 3, 2, 2. So with the exception of 2 seasons early in his career, he has 1 number 1 finish, but he's got 3 number 2, 3 number 3, a number 4, 2 number 5. So he's got like 10 top 5 finishes and like 8 top 3 finishes. So
that's incredible consistency from him. Dude.
So that would be why Justin Tucker is the consensus kicker 1, although he probably isn't this year, but
I mean, yeah, like it's probably what Aubrey, the guy in Dallas who was awesome last year.
I think that's why I have,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Sounds about right. All right, that is a wrap for our NFC West Superlative Divisional Breakdown, or preview, I guess you could call it. Check out all of our written content over on fantasyfootballuniverse.com. Check us out on any social media, the FF Universe. I think we're back tomorrow for another division. And then Wednesday, we are doing a live mock draft with Pat Fitzmaurice of Fantasy Pros. So check that out. For Aaron and Jesse, thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you next time. Take care.